the two biggest problems for the narcissist. What are the two biggest problems for the narcissist? Can you give an educated guess as to what that might be? No, it's not being overdrawn at the bank of moisturiser or being Billy No-Mates, although that might affect certain narcissists. There are two fundamental problems that all narcissists can face, and where lesser or mid-range will face on a regular basis. As you know from my work, we narcissists need the prime aims: fuel and control, character traits, and residual benefits. Control, because we are hypersensitive control, and we need to control our environments and everybody in them. And we do so through the 3 assertions of control, which, if you haven't digested, you should obtain from the Knowledge Vault, because that is key material to understanding narcissism. Fuel is our lifeblood. It powers the construct, imprisons the creature, enables us to attract more people to us. It's the glue that keeps the construct together. It also signals to us that you're under control, we're dealing with you directly. Character traits are the shards, the fragments, the pieces that are placed upon the construct. And if you listen to the video Character Trait Acquisition, it will tell you more about that. Residual benefits are a wide range, a plethora of advantages conveyed by our relationships with the various people in our fuel matrices. For instance, money, shelter, housing, being invited to certain events, garnering information, opportunity to access networks, having somebody to do our laundry, cook our food, mow the lawn, ferry us around, lend their car to us, and so on and so forth. Of those 4 things, 2 become problematic for the narcissist, and there is an ever-present risk of those problems manifesting, and indeed they manifest on a repeated basis for all narcissists. It's important for you to be able to understand what these things are, because it will give you a degree of assurance and comfort that when you see the narcissist apparently going along in a happy-go-lucky way, without an apparent care in the world, that you know actually that's not the case. Now, of course, the majority of narcissists are unaware, being lesser or mid-range, and there are the greater and the ultra who are aware of what they are and how they operate. The first 2 groups don't recognize that these are problems, although they experience the manifestation of the problem without realizing what it is. The greater and the ultra don't face these problems as often because of their more effective narcissism and more complicated and deep fuel matrices, but they present nevertheless for greaters and ultra also. The first problem for the narcissist is the issue of control. You repeatedly pose threats to the narcissist's control. You'll often do this without realizing it, and you will do this through the provision of challenge fuel. Many people think that when they say to the narcissist, "You're a low-down scumbag with terrible breath and you're useless in bed," and the narcissist goes nuts, they think, "Whoop-de-doo, I have wounded the narcissist." No, you haven't. What you've done is you threatened the narcissist's control by suggesting the narcissist is less than their self-perception. You've offended their notion of brilliance and superiority, which in turn affects the narcissist's control over you. You've given fuel to the narcissist because your unpleasant words and your harsh tone and your narrowed eyes and your jutting jaw and your clenched fists all contribute to fuel of the negative variety. So there's no problem there. But what you have done is that you have threatened the narcissist's control with what you have said. And in those circumstances, the narcissist is duty-bound, either unconsciously or consciously, to assert control over you, either benignly or malignly, selected by the narcissism through the 3 assertions of control. The issue of control is ever present for the narcissist, save when we are asleep. From the moment we rise until the moment we close our eyes and fall into a righteous slumber, there is the potential for you and him and her and them to affect our control through the provision of a challenge. The threat to control also comes from wounding. And this is where you don't do something. This is where you ignore us. This is where you fail to send us a birthday card, or you don't answer a text, or you don't open your front door to us. And when you wound, you also threaten our control. You offend our sense of entitlement. You offend our sense of superiority. And once again, threatening that control results in an immediate response from the narcissist through one of the three assertions of control to bring you under control once again. So, no doubt you are already thinking of the many different interactions that you have with the narcissist. They will amount to either wounding or challenge fuel, which either way threaten the narcissist's control. You, potentially, could threaten a narcissist's control dozens of times in a day, from making yourself a cup of tea and failing to make the narcissist one, to asking him where he's going, to asking to look at his phone, to asking the narcissist to help you tidy up the house, to berating the narcissist for turning up late, for commenting favourably about George Clooney in a film. Lots of different ways of wounding or issuing challenge fuel to the narcissist and thus threatening the narcissist's control. And this is what the narcissist has to deal with on a daily basis. Now, of course, our narcissism has been created as a self-defense mechanism to deal with this very point, to immediately assert control over you. In the same way that when you hear a loud bang, your startle reflex makes you jump, causes you to scurry under a desk or curl into a ball, our narcissism kicks into action in an instant in order to assert that control, and is hugely effective at achieving it. It has to be, given our hypersensitivity to the impact of a threat to our control. It has to be fast, it has to be instantaneous. And that's why, for the majority of narcissists, they don't know what they are and aren't allowed to know what they are, because if they did, they'd hesitate and control would not be gained, or it would be gained too slowly. And that is why most narcissists don't know what they are. The greater and the ultra know, and know that they're seeking control, and are exceptionally effective at doing so through a conscious method of the selection of the appropriate manipulation to bring about that control. With the lesser or mid-range, it's automatic. The greater or the ultra, it's selected. Either way, control will always, I repeat, always be achieved in some form through the three assertions of control. It's why, as I've mentioned in a previous video, the quote, "Flecter in equeo superos acerontum vibo," is entirely appropriate. Namely, if I cannot move heaven, I will raise hell. If we can't control you in terms of you doing what we want from the off, we control you through the creation of an alternative world, which is the narcissistic perspective. But this is one of the problems that the narcissist has, the need to always assert control over you. We are very good at it, and indeed we always get it in some form. But for certain narcissists, particularly lesser and mid-range, it results in collateral consequences. The narcissist asserts control over you by punching you in the face, but then ends up getting arrested. The narcissist asserts control by storming out of a court hearing. Of course, that then leaves him in contempt of court, and so on and so forth. But that doesn't matter, because when the next instance of the threat to the control comes, namely arrested, the narcissist will plead, "I didn't do anything wrong, she provoked me," because it's never our fault. And the narcissist deflects in order to achieve control in that manner. But it's important for you to understand that the necessity for us to assert control each and every second of every day is there. The second problem for the narcissist arises with regard to the question of fuel. Whilst we feel a threat to our control, both through challenge fuel and wounding, the other problem arises from lowering fuel levels or a lack of fuel. Where you fail to provide us with fuel, and this only ever occurs as a consequence of either you wounding us or we're not able to have any form of interaction with somebody, then in that instance, our fuel levels drop. And where we're wounded, as you'll understand from my book Fury, The fuel level plummets even faster and takes the narcissist towards a fuel crisis. And if you want to understand more about those plummeting fuel levels, what the narcissist feels and experiences, please listen to the video, The Fuel Crisis. Of course, our narcissism is designed to enable us to gain fuel, but it is an ever-present hunt. The predator seeking the next meal, the scavenger going over the carrion of something that has been killed elsewhere and utilizing it. Always on the hunt, always gathering. Of course, the greatest and the ultra with complicated and extensive fuel matrices gather fuel very, very easily indeed, and a fuel crisis for those types of narcissists is virtually unheard of. But for the lesser and the mid-range, their fuel matrices can become somewhat haphazard, and you'd like to understand more about that, then go to the Knowledge Vault and obtain Changes to the Narcissist Fuel Matrix. You'll find that very interesting indeed. The two most pressing issues for a narcissist relate to the assertion of control and the maintenance of fuel levels to avoid the presence of the chasm, to avoid that howling wilderness that lurks, the yawning emptiness that is always there, and the creature within that beckons. You, as an empath, don't have these things. We do. And whilst we achieve many, many great things, or certainly some of our kind do, and we compartmentalize and we're always moving forward, it is because of the need to assert control and gain fuel that we behave in the way that we do. We have been manufactured and fabricated and designed the way that we are so that we are at our optimum for asserting control and our optimum for gaining that fuel. That is why we are not occasioned with guilt. We're not fitted with a conscience. We are not someone who has remorse. We compartmentalize. We don't self-reflect. We move forward. But the engine, or the machine that is the narcissist, has to cater to these two issues, which can, from time to time, prove problematic. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.